This. I got it. Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 5:03. Sorry, I do the European military time in Gaston's. That's what we do in Guatemala. But welcome everybody. I am trying to fill out pretty big shoes today. Neil is away on a very well-deserved vacation with his family. And so I'll be your host for tonight. So hopefully I'll make Neil proud, but I wanted to start first by introducing and also welcoming Phil to his first full board meeting, still virtual. We can, everybody will have the pressure to meet you hopefully in May in person. But Phil is our new director for board services. Do you want to say something, Phil? Sorry to put it just in the spot. I didn't, but.
I wanted to mention something about kimchi, and
I was going to behave myself, and here you are. So you're
in
opening
San
it up.
Diego, Flora insisted I eat some, and I did barely. But no, seriously, we've been here a month now, and we're just still getting settled. We moved into a house in Middlesex, right beside Rumney Memorial School, if you're familiar with Central Vermont, and getting acquainted, established, looking for some more sunny days like we had the last couple, and looking forward to the summer for sure. But just glad to be here, and I've been on the road quite a bit since I got here, working with school districts and trying to lead a strategic planning process, as well as help in some school board development situations around the state. And so I'm not new to this work. It's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm glad to live in Vermont, where I'll never have to fly to work with a school district here. And so that's a big improvement over Texas.
Thank you, Phil. Well, welcome. We're excited to have you and glad that you did venture to try kimchi. And we won't tell the rest of the story on that, at least for now, but maybe at the end I'll show some pictures of you eating kimchi. So let's move right along into our agenda and moving to the legislative update. So Sue, Cara, and Sandra.
I think it's just going to be Kara and myself.
Okay.
And I'm covering two bills. Kara's covering some other ones. We're really only concentrating on those bills that are seeing action right now. So there's several others that have been covered in the blog, but there's so much going on that we're just giving you the highlights. So I'll let you start off, Kara.
Good evening, everyone. I'm getting over something, not COVID, so excuse me if I sound a little stuffy. The first bill that I'll talk about is S287. That's the waiting bill. It's currently in House Ways and Means, and then House Education has just a small piece of that regarding EL students, and then also the evaluation and monitoring the audit process. House Education is expected to take a straw poll vote on that tomorrow morning, and then they're going to send that up to their recommendation up to House Ways and Means. And then House Ways and Means has S287 on their agenda for tomorrow afternoon for a possible vote. We're still not quite sure the final version that the House Ways and Means Committee will adopt. If you read the blog from last week, yesterday, the committee has taken extensive testimony on the cost adjustment approach versus recalibrated weights. They appear to be supporting the cost adjustment approach. If you want to see the testimony that VSBA provided, I believe it's linked in the chat. So you can see the position that you all took in that chat. And we expect that the bill will go to conference committee, because regardless of the approach taken, the cost adjustment or the recalibrated weights, there are differences in the House and Senate version. So that's the waiting bill. I don't know if, should I pause for questions here or?
You have like 2 or 3 more to go through, so I think you
Okay.
could answer questions at the end.
Okay, great. I'll move on to pensions. Pensions, the pensions bill was voted out of House Gov Ops this afternoon, and now it is going to House Appropriations. And then it should be on the floor in the next few weeks. This morning, Michelle Baker, who's president of the Vermont Association of Business Offices, VSBA, and an auditor from Maine who audits a lot of Vermont schools, testified about their concerns, the concerns that business offices have about implementing the teacher contribution portion of the bill. The committee was sympathetic but unwavering in their support for the bill. The chair asked Michelle and Cindy to come up with a solution before the bill goes to the floor. So basically, the bill will go to appropriations, and then it will go to the floor. And during any of those steps, the business offices can propose a solution, and hopefully that would go in as an amendment to the bill. Moving on to H727, that's the Chapter 11 rewrite bill. It's currently in Senate Education. Senate Education is spending the week taking testimony. They set aside time, or they took some testimony last week and then a little more this week. And to date, they have not made any changes to the bill as it was passed by the House. Moving on to S100, that's the Universal Meals Bill. This would provide universal meals through a $29 million unidentified funding source. It made its way out of House Ways and Means today. Despite concern over how to fund the program at the state level, the bill, as passed out of the House Ed Committee, would provide universal meals for 1 year, while the General Assembly works to collect more data. The Joint Fiscal Office is tasked with proposing alternative revenue sources by February 1st, 2023. Once this bill would likely go to conference too if it makes it out of the Senate, or would need to, because it differs from the version that was passed out of the Senate last year. And then House Ed spent some time today outlining a plan for the remaining 2 weeks of the session. The fate of S219, which is the public tuition to religious institutions bill, is still up in the air. And S197, which is the mental health bill, will likely be voted out of committee tomorrow. And that's all from me.
Any questions for Kara? I'll take over and help you save your voice, Kara. So I just have 2 bills to tell you about. The first one is S162, relating to collective bargaining rights of teachers. It's now in House Education. I testified there today, as well as Jay Nichols from VPA. You'll probably remember that as introduced, this bill gave all teachers a period during which they could breach teaching contracts for the next school year without any consequences. In the bill, it was up until June 15th of each year. The Senate Ed Committee heard from several school leaders who expressed concern that that would be extremely disruptive to the hiring and planning process and would disadvantage rural school districts that are competing for teachers with better resourced school districts. Well, first I'll tell you about the other sections of the bill, and then I'll tell you how they approached it. In addition, there were 2 other sections of the bill having to do with addressing a Vermont Supreme Court decision, which interpreted 16 VSA section 1752. And there was a provision ensuring that teachers do not face discipline for testifying before the General Assembly and the state board. Because of the disagreement on that first section of the bill that I just told you about, the Senate Ed chair pretty much required VSBA, VSA, VPA, and the Vermont NEA to work together to find some kind of resolution. We met many times and could not come to a resolution on that first section of the bill. So what ended up happening in the Senate was that was completely removed from the bill, which was actually, you know, a good outcome for us because it was problematic. So what passed the Senate was the bill with that section removed, and then we had agreed upon the language for the rest of the bill. So we do support the S-162 as it came out of the Senate. And that's basically what I told the House Ed Committee today. And that's what all the other associations told them as well. So I think I'm not sure how much more testimony they're going to take on the bill, but we will be watching to make sure that there aren't any changes proposed in the House. And then the other bill that I wanted to let you know about was S-139, which is the mascot bill. This bill passed out of the Senate. You probably remember back in February, this is a bill that the board talked about, and I then testified the next day to the Senate Education Committee, and the bill ended up changing after that. So what it requires as passed by the Senate is for the Secretary of Education to consult with the VSBA and develop a model non-discriminatory school branding policy by August 1st, 2022. School boards are required to develop and ensure implementation of a non-discriminatory school branding policy that must be at least as comprehensive as the model policy that is developed by the Secretary. And also the policy must provide a process for an individual to file a complaint that an element of school branding is in violation of the policy. Complaints must first be addressed by the school board of the district, and if someone is unsatisfied with the decision of the board, they can appeal it to the Secretary of Education. The deadline for school boards to adopt their policy is January 1, 2023. And the bill also states that any school board that fails to adopt such a policy shall be presumed to have adopted the most current model policy published by the Secretary. The House Ed Committee plans to take some more testimony on the bill, including possibly from the chair of the Rutland City School Board and some students. So it's unclear whether they're going to ultimately move forward with it. They were sort of discussing the bill today, and it seemed like some of the members were for it, and some of them were not as supportive. So keep an eye on the blog for any updates on S-139, the mascot bill. I believe that concludes our legislative update. Are there any questions on any of the bills or anything else legislative?
Adrian has her hand up, and then Colleen too.
Oh, I see Don as well.
I just had a quick question. When you said the mascot bill, after going to the local board, they could go to the secretary, would he have actual authority over
He
branding
has,
of a school?
yeah, he has authority to, once the appeal goes to him, I believe he has, I'm just taking a look at the bill itself. Here it is.
I hadn't noticed that before.
It doesn't really say what he has authority to do. It just says if an individual is unsatisfied with the decision of the board, it may be appealed to the Secretary of Education. And the complaint would be that an element of school branding is in violation of the policy. So the secretary would be making a decision as to whether the school branding violates the policy.
Thanks.
Colleen, and then Don.
My question is similar, related to S-139, and that's, I believe you noted that the secretary would develop the policy, and I just wonder how often that occurs, that versus going through the VSBA, asking the VSBA to come up with a model policy.
It does happen fairly often. The hazing, harassment, and bullying policy is one of those. And there was one a couple of years ago that the legislature required the secretary to develop, having to do with electronic communications between staff and students. So, but typically if they do assign it to the secretary, it's a required policy, and they usually include the VSBA as someone that the secretary has to consult with. But
Okay, that's helpful.
even though the secretary is developing it, we'll still have it in our model policy manual.
And so the differentiation is typically those policies that must be adopted come from the secretary, whereas the VSBA model policies might or might not be required, or?
So our required policies are all in the ones that are in the section noted required. They're all required by either federal or state law or regulation. Sometimes the legislature will say that the secretary has to develop the policy when it's something that's sort of I don't know, I guess they decide that it's a statewide issue that they want the secretary to have input on. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they just say school boards must have a policy on X, and then VSBA goes ahead and develops that model policies to have in our manual.
Okay, thank you.
Done?
Yes, going back to the branding policy, Sue, who is vice chair of House Education at this time?
Vice chair, I believe, is Larry Coopely.
From the Rutland area, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's what. And the second question I have is, on the weighting study, everything seemed to be moving along. There were challenges along the way and people leaving the trail and swinging around back. But when did this whole new concept start arising? Did that come out of House Ways and Means? Was that when that first appeared in the discussion?
No, it was part of the task force's report. It was laid out as one of the options. It was called something I think in the task force report, it was called cost equity, and now they call it cost adjustment, but it's the same thing.
Same thing. Okay. Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, board members, for Cara or Sue? I don't see any. I do have one quick question, Cara, on S100. Where is the funding coming from?
The funding is coming, it's one-time funding and it's from the Ed Fund surplus.
Okay.
And then they are charging in the bill, Joint Fiscal Office is tasked with the responsibility of finding a permanent revenue source that is not the education fund.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, thank you both. We can move, we're like ahead of times, which is great. So we can move into the strategic planning preparation. We're going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour on this. I'm going to give it to Sue so that she can introduce us to Phil and Sandra and the process.
Thank you, Flor. So Phil and Sandra are working together on this process there, and I'm really excited about the board embarking on this work and everything they've done to prepare for this meeting and moving forward. And Phil's going to sort of explain the process to everyone before you go into your breakout rooms, not only the process for tonight, but also the process that we envision moving forward. And then after the breakout rooms, we'll have a little bit of a sort of some concluding information before we move on to the next agenda topic. So I'll turn it over to you, Phil.
You're muted.
Phil, you're
Phil.
muted.
Phil, do you need some kimchi? You're muted.
Nice. Couldn't even talk if I had kimchi. Well, so I'll start over. As a designated spokesperson for this, these are not all my ideas or thoughts. These are things we've been working on collaboratively. And we recognize it's time to revisit and update the VSBA strategic planning. And so as we go through this, know that everything is really more open-ended and less directive than what I might come across, because we're presenting these things up to you really as a draft form, especially as we talk about timeline and fairly ambitious process here. But we're going to spend the majority of this time this evening in breakout groups where we're getting your input into beliefs and vision for VSBA. And let me just mention here as we go along that the purpose of strategic planning, so we'll back up a little bit. It's really to align the organization, or in our case, the association's mission and vision with our actions and the work that we do. Without the mission and vision, the plan kind of exists in a vacuum, but we recognize the vision, that's the destination. That's where we want to head. The mission kind of helps identify, here's a starting place for a path forward, kind of our primary objective, if you will, for action. And the strategic plan itself as a document, it becomes a roadmap that helps us navigate from where we are to where we want to be. This ties really nicely with the duties of nonprofit boards. So very importantly, you as a board own this strategic plan, and staff will help you develop it to whatever extent that you allow and you want. But this really fits with the duties that we talked about a few months ago, maybe about 6 months ago now, for any nonprofit board, to ensure that the association has prudent use of our assets, including financial resources, staff resources, and the input and resources of volunteers as well. Plus the duty of loyalty. So the strategic plan helps kind of create a framework that can let the board know whether decisions are being made and actions are taking place in the best interest of the association as a whole. It becomes part of the master documents, if you will, so that with the duty of obedience, the board is ensuring not only that VSBA follows the laws and bylaws, but it becomes the stated positions that are in pursuit of its mission. This is really about alignment, or what some people would call coherence. Does everything fit together, and does it come into focus? So we would hope that in the strategic planning process, ultimately the document and the words that are there, they really help clarify and define the focus of VSBA so that all of our work is aligned. And we want to depict this goal in two other ways. One here is some nested circles. And so we want to ensure that the beliefs of, first of all, the VSBA board members, but ultimately also the whole membership of VSBA, that what people really believe is most important is represented in the vision and the mission. And so that the goal areas and the strategies and the activities and outcomes of the association are really in alignment with core beliefs of the people that have stewardship over making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. And I want to share this kind of connection, if you will, more in a linear depiction. So tonight we'll spend quite a bit of time. We've got some prompts for the breakout rooms where we're asking you what you believe about public education in Vermont, what you believe as individuals about local school governance, and what you believe about the VSBA. Those beliefs should help kind of prime our thinking to get us to where we need to be with a vision, so that we know that our vision is not detached from what is really our core beliefs or core values. In our process, the mission will come next, and tonight we'll be working on beliefs and vision. These will be draft statements. I'll share a timeline here in just a moment, but these will be draft statements that help inform the mission and then the goal areas and indicators. So again, I mentioned an ambitious process. What we're proposing is that tonight we gather input from you on the beliefs and vision of the board, and then we'll share this within a week or two back with you. We'll also share sort of some promising practices, and we may do that after the breakouts a little bit, but share it as a handout later this month. Promising practices when it comes to vision statements and mission statements. We're going to, and this was, I believe, Colleen's suggestion when we met with the executive committee maybe last week, we're going to request whole board input. So we'll send an email later this month to board chairs. And in this timeline, it may not be ideal for when retreats are held in many districts, but we're going to ask that each local board have a conversation about the VSBA vision and mission. We'll have some specific questions for them to give feedback on. And then we'll share all of this back with you in our next meeting together on May 11th. And not only on May 11th will we get your feedback on some draft belief and vision statements, but we'll also be hopefully starting to move into the mission. Then tying this process or bringing it to a close over the next several months, we're going to spend most of the time during the board retreat getting input from you on those draft statements, again, refining them and looking at the vision, the mission, and the goal areas with indicators for success. And then after that, we'll provide a summary back to you again, with the hopes that by the end of the summer, then we've got a draft vision and mission and goal areas that we can share with participants in the fall regional meetings. And in that process, in June or July, we definitely want to survey all of the individual local school board members and get their input. So this is an engagement opportunity to have their input in the work of their association. And we recognize that by the bylaws, if there are changes to the vision and mission, that those need to be approved at the annual meeting in October. Sue or Sandra, would you like to add anything to that, or should we pause and ask if there are questions?
Question sounds good. I don't have anything to add.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, let's open it up to questions. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Sure.
So we can see everybody. Thank you, Phil. Oh, there. Any questions from board members before we break into 4 breakout rooms? I don't see any hands up, so I think we could start the process of dividing into breakout rooms. The executive committee is gonna be in each of the breakout rooms to help with the process, and we're gonna have one administrator per room too. So how should we go about that, Phil?
I'm gonna try
They're
to
all
shoot-
set. They're all set. I'm just gonna hit breakout rooms and everyone will go there. I'm gonna pause the recording while we're in breakout rooms.
Okay, Sandra, do you want to say a little bit about it?
Yes, I have a little intro to get our conversation started. Just a reminder, as according to the VSBA bylaws, resolutions are positions taken by the association on issues of importance to Vermont school boards. They may include recommendations for action by the VSBA, local school boards, the legislature, the executive branch, or other decision-making bodies. And the resolutions are in effect until the next annual meeting, when they may be deleted, continued, or amended by the membership. Article 10 of the bylaws also states that as a committee of the board of directors, the resolution committee will consist of the vice president, who serves as chair, and one representative from each region. This committee will solicit and recommend positions to the board of directors for action by membership at the association's annual meeting. So the resolutions committee will complete its work this year in the last 2 weeks of June. And the vice president of the board, Floor, will serve as the resolution committee chair and will represent the region of Central Vermont. And this is the time in our meeting, and as we do annually, that we look for volunteer representatives from each region to serve on the resolutions committee. As I said, the bulk of the work will happen at the end of June, and then there'll be a report that we submit to the full board for consideration in August, and then on to the full membership for October. So Fleur is with us and will represent Central Vermont. And I'm not sure if the best way to go through this is to just ask by region if we have a volunteer tonight.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's start with Addison and see if we have a volunteer from Addison. It always takes us a couple of meetings to get this, or a couple of calls. Bennington. Nobody, but I have
It
Central
looks like
Vermont.
Jim is talking, but Jim, your
Jim?
microphone's off.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just gonna have, David and I, it's between the two of us, and I did it last year. I'd be happy to do it again. You want me to take that one on?
Yeah, I mean, if you're happy to, that would make my life a lot easier. Thank you.
Okay, mark me down.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Eastern Chittenden. Colleen, Kim, who?
Well, I think, yeah, I'm more than happy to do it. Yeah.
Is that okay? I just messaged Colleen to see, just thinking, anyway, I'm doing finance committee. I could do both, but I think, did you do it last year? I think you did it last year.
I did do it last year, and you have the heavy lift with the finance committee. I'm happy to do it. I just didn't want to arm wrestle you for it if you really wanted to do
definitely
it.
no arm wrestling.
Okay.
Thank you.
So me. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Franklin? Cornell. Oh,
Are you on?
goodness. Yeah,
Is
Done.
Tara here? I think she is somewhere.
Tara, yeah, Tara had to leave. She had another
Yes.
meeting. Yeah,
I mean, I've done it, I think now for 5 or 6 years. I don't mind continuing. But I think I'll be in contact with Tara, and if she really wants a chance at it, I will gladly let her have it. Is she on the finance committee, or she's on another committee, but it's not finance? Maybe Sue knows. Is it a policy or goals committee, outreach committee?
I don't believe she's on the policy committee or the
No.
finance committee.
No, I think there's one where they were trying to get member engagement.
Yes, I think she was on that committee, yes.
Right. So put me down for resolutions, and we'll work it out between us.
okay. Got that, Sandra? Kingdom North?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Floor. I don't know if Kevin would like to do it, but I did it last year. I know he did it 2 years ago, but I'm happy to do it. So over.
Thank you, Gaston. We're not gonna arm wrestle anybody to this, so you're volunteering, we'll take you. Kingdom South?
Since I'm the only representative, I guess I'm in.
You're in, or you can volunteer your, but yeah, thank you, Mark.
Oh, that's true. We'll count me in for now.
Thank you. Rutland? You're muted.
I think I'm the only one here, and I think I'm muted. Yeah, I haven't done it in a couple of years. I'd be fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Sure.
Western Chittenden, I never say that quite right, but Western. I don't know that we have any.
We might not have anyone here
Anybody
right
here,
now from
yeah.
there. Yeah, that would be Martine or Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay, we'll reach out to them. Wyndham? Mark was here before. Where did he go?
Here, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. I can see you. Yes, Mark. Yeah.
I've been having trouble with my microphone, so if you can hear me, Dan
Yeah.
asked me if I would take it on, so I will. So count me in.
Thank you.
Did we
Mark.
skip Eastern Chittenden?
No, we had a Colleen.
Colleen is
Arm
volunteered from
wrestling and
Eastern.
Colleen won.
Yeah. And now we have Windsor.
And I will do it. Nancy and I are both on the policy committee. So I can resign from that one and go to resolution, and then we'll be represented on policy by Nancy.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
So I think we got most for a change. So yeah, we'll follow up with everybody else. Do we need a formal motion, Sue, to appoint them, or?
Since we don't have everyone yet, you could do a formal motion now, or you could wait till the May meeting and do the formal motion at that point.
Why don't we wait for May, and so that we have everybody in? Does that make sense?
Is there another Addison rep at this point?
There is, it's Suzanne, and she was not able to be here tonight. Suzanne Buck.
Good, I would defer to her. Unfortunately, I've resigned from our local board, so I won't be able to participate. I would love to be on the resolutions committee, but that's not possible.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Okay, sorry to hear that. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so Sandra and Sue are going to be sending an email out to remind boards about the resolutions too, a separate email. And then I was going to ask you guys, and like, wait, somebody is not muted. Yeah, can't hear. Okay, there. To ask all of our regional reps to remind the regions about the resolutions deadline on June 15th. You know, it's been in our little newsletter. You had it on April 12th, but you know, it's not always. So when they send the little reminder, when is it going to be, Sandra? We said tomorrow or by Friday?
By the end of this week, we'll send a
By the
separate
end of
email.
this week. Yeah, use that one to email your regions as a personal email, just to remind them about the deadline and that they put it on their board, because a lot of boards are wrapping up too, and it just comes really quickly, and then we can get us, you know, everybody's resolutions on time. Not that we need too many, but just at least putting it out there. Okay. Let's move to the next topic. Number 5, VSBA regional meetings update.
I can do that, Floor.
Thank you, Sue.
So we wanted to just give you an update on the planning for the regional meetings. This year, our annual meeting and conference are a bit earlier than usual. It's October 20th and 21st. So our regional meetings will be quite close to that. And the current plan is to hold our regional meetings remotely, as we have the last couple of years. We've seen increased attendance by holding them remotely, and also some decreased costs, not having to pay for the travel of staff around the state. But what we want to make sure that people do have a chance to connect in person. So the annual conference is going to be in person. It's going to be at Lake Maury. And what we're planning to do is to set aside some time at the annual conference where regions could informally meet together, just for people to be able to connect and share ideas and that type of thing. So we would still have your formal regional meetings earlier in the fall, starting in early September. And we usually have like a couple every week until we get through all of them. When we have them remotely, we're able to combine a couple of regions in one night, and that saves on time as well. So that is currently the plan for the regional meetings. It seems like it's far away, but unfortunately, summer will go quickly and it'll be here before we know it. So we want to make sure that we, have a plan in place. So just wanted to provide that update to everyone and see if you have any feedback.
Any feedback or questions from board members? Everybody feeling good about the plan? Can we do some thumbs up if you feel good about the plan? And we have, okay, great.
Laura, I have a question of Sue.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
When a regional meeting is scheduled for an area, do the staff members look and see when regular board meetings are occurring in that area?
Yes. Yes, I contact every secretary in the SUs and they give me their, the dates of their board meetings. I don't do committee meetings because I wouldn't have
No,
enough
I'm not-
dates left.
Committee meetings.
But yeah, I do board meetings and we avoid them. Now, sometimes people change their board meetings in September because of Labor Day early in the month. Sometimes it falls on that, so they'll have their meetings, they'll reschedule their meetings and then it conflicts. But
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
yep.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we're gonna move right along and be back on time on the agenda. So the third quarter final report, Jim, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, the VSBA is still hanging in there in good position financially. The Finance Committee has been working on the budget for fiscal 23. We have that in pretty decent shape, but it's not presented to you guys yet. You'll probably get a peek at that next meeting. So where we are right now, as I'm not going to go through line by line or anything, but the sort of bigger items, one of the bigger items on sort of creating a bit of a change is board development work, where I think it's great that we've actually been able to, we had expected to be using more outside folks to accomplish that, but we've actually been able to do that with internal folks. So that's led to our revenues being pretty close to where we expect them, but our expenses lower. So that's a positive variance to the budget. And I think it's also kind of good because, nobody on internal people to be, providing that kind of guidance to boards around the state. Other items, our dues are slightly ahead. That's because, one district that we didn't necessarily expect to be getting dues from, we did get dues from because they decided to be a part of the organization. On other items, you'll see in the other sort of significant differences, public policy. If you look at the public policy, I think all of us recognize is an extremely important element of the work of the VSBA, and VSBA has sort of taken the lead on making that happen. So what we found is that we needed to increase the compensation of the legislative analyst. Everybody agreed to it, and they're providing that support. So that's a bit of a variance on the budget. And then, VSBA searches as well. The only thing that shocks me is that we don't even have more searches going on because there seem to be so many darn openings, but we have significantly ahead on that. I think using, a lot of external resources on those searches at this point. But that's coming in the revenue figure at a bit higher than had been expected. But at the same time, since we're using outside resources, there's a page in there that gives you the net items, and you see on a net basis, we're just slightly ahead of budget. So we're in a good place. I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions on the financials. Gaston.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. The only question I have is about the contract database. I don't understand however, there are a couple of lawyers and non-members that are not included in their dues. I don't understand what that means.
Okay, because we made the decision that, in the old days, people paid for the contract database separately.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so now it's rolled into the dues. but we're still receiving payments from a couple of people who aren't members. So that's basically that figure. Hopefully I got that right, Carrie.
Yes, sir, you did.
It makes
Okay.
sense, Jim. Thanks. I was sort of thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yep, I've always, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Yes. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? As I said, get ready for the fiscal 23 budget. It's not dramatically different. We'll also be providing you with some information on, we made a switch this year to, back in the old days, we had said the dues were capped at the level, the increase in educational spending in that particular year. We've changed that in our bylaws. Actually, this year, what's going to be proposed will still fit within that old role, but one of the things we're going to be, that is new, is we're going to be presenting you guys with a view of what the dues have been over a period of several years versus what education spending has been over, several years. And so you'll be able to see, what you'll actually see is that, the VSBA has not increased its dues by very much for a while. That was part of our some transition. So, but that'll be new type of information for you guys. But the finance committee is, Carrie actually told us that, we're being maybe too active, but anyway, the finance committee is looking at a few different things. So we'll hope to have a few different proposals and suggestions for you guys over time. But the first item coming up will be the fiscal 23 budget. And you guys will see that probably next month. And if there are no other questions, I'm done.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the Finance Committee. It's a lot of work and the board really appreciates it. So thank you for doing that. Let's move on into the NSBA update. We're able to be back on time. So if it's okay with you, Sue, I'll share the pictures at the same time that I'm doing my part of the update. Is that okay? And then
Sure.
I let Phil and Sandra and you do your part. So I'm going to try to share my screen without sharing my entire screen. Hold on 1 second quick here. I guess I'm just going to have to share the entire screen because it's just, can you see my screen? Okay, so I'm going to start here with each of us volunteered for one of the committees, and I was in the Sergeant of Arms, and Neil was checking in people, and Phil helped me here in the, what was it called?
Just before delegate assembly?
Basically, you're checking your credential, the credentials committee, that was Neil. And then moving right along to the next, oops, I didn't make it, sorry, I was hoping to make it so this is us meeting Phil also for the first time at the committee, at the delegate assembly. So I'm going to leave this picture up here and I'll just fill you in what the delegate assembly. I'm going to start by just saying that the NSBA has a new president, John Heim, and I'm not sure if everybody was aware of that. And I'm going to quote something that he said that I think you all will appreciate, especially with the conversations that we've been having today. He said, "I believe in the power of democratically elected school boards and locally elected officials to change the lives of children and the course of their future." So that was his opening remark, which I think we would all identify with after conversations we had today. He also acknowledged that the NSBA, as you guys know, made a mistake in that letter that was sent to the Biden administration. So he said that part of what they're going through right now is basically, recognizing that they made that mistake, and they have publicly acknowledged it, as you know, and they have also apologized. So, and they're with that, they're undergoing an independent and an internal review of what happened at the delegate assembly, which Neil and I are voting members. You can see there's Vermont, I'm gonna go back one, up one, there's Neil clarifying a statement. Sorry, I didn't make it a slideshow. So what happened at I'm gonna try to be brief to not bore you to death, but the NSBA, we reaffirm our commitment to non-participation in clear language, because partnership has no place in education. We established the policy of importance of the parental partnership and in the child education. The calling of the NSBA fundamental belief in local control, because problems are best addressed at a local level, and affirming the support to historically disadvantaged students. But with that, the most important part that the delegate assembly did is, let me see, we pretty much adopted 20 amendments to the NSBA constitutional bylaws, and that allows us the flexibility given the membership fluctuation, and provide a structure that allows NSBA to better engage and serve its members in all of the states. And one of the biggest things that we did is to add, sorry, I moved all of my notes here. We added executive director for all of our, so any executive director for the state to our committees, to make sure that there is some board members change a lot. And Phil is going to have to help me here, because I just lost my okay, here, I got it. Sorry, I moved by trying to move all the pictures. So, you know, that including the expertise of a state executive director in all of the NSBA governance, and that will streamline the governance process so that the NSBA is more nimble. That was really the biggest part that we did. You can see Neil here in this picture. He was clarifying the process, and we were trying to get him to get up there. It was an important moment. We gave him such a hard time. This is just walking to the conference. I thought that Bridge, you would all appreciate it. Sue Ann is going to kill me here with this picture, but we got her there, sending Sue and Neil there. Let me see. This is Viola was stepping down. She was the first Hispanic president of the NSBA, and she just stepped down. And she's, I really have appreciated her. I don't know her very well, more than smiling, and that's what she came over to say. But here's your team, and pretend that Carrie and Phil are here too. And that was the one night. So all of the party pictures are that night. That is the night that it was cocktails. So don't get any ideas that we partied all the time. But and this is your team also at the walking day, lined up all of the signs for all of the states, including the ones that have left. Again, here's your team. Neil was getting prepped for the President's Walk, which is also the first time that Vermont president has walked. So if you guys all remember, Gio refused to walk. the NSBA president. This is the conference hall. I've never been to San Diego, so this is really pretty conference hall. This is the harsh reality of the Vermonters with 3,000 people, the only people with masks. And we got pretty used to it pretty quickly. And I think my favorite part, and I think I cried through this whole 2 performances, was seeing the kids and the work that is going on in other states. And this is your president. He's right there hiding. And there's a video, but I won't embarrass him, even though he gave me authority to embarrass you. But and this was sort of where I went in. If you guys want to read it, these 2 guys wrote a book. It's basically based on Mr. Rogers' show, but this is sort of what we should be doing too as adults. I'm not going to read it to you, but and here's Phil with the president dressed up. He did bring a suit to do the walk of the president. And last is Phil's kimchi. I couldn't help myself. There's his kimchi. We went out to dinner one night and had Korean. I really insisted in Korean, so it's totally my fault. But we don't have a lot of ethnic food in Vermont, so. But he survived, as you can see. He is now I'm gonna let him take the stage. So that's your team.
Hey, Floor, wasn't that one picture that with the two gentlemen and Phil? I think it was his president from Texas and the president from Vermont with Phil, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I was gonna let him speak to that. And yes.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
just love
Yeah.
connecting people, Floor, and I've been going to NSBA conferences for 20 years and having, worked at NSBA and a couple of other state associations, know a lot of people around the country. I always enjoy the keynotes, but just, the networking, kind of seeing people that are doing research on governance, and obviously a lot of the people that are doing school board development in other states and so forth. Always good to connect with them. So I know this next year it's in Orlando. I would just put in a shameless plug. If you ever have a chance to go to an NSBA conference, I think you'd be richly enjoy it. The camaraderie, and people come from the Virgin Islands, they come from Canada. I believe all 50 states were represented, maybe not Hawaii because they don't really have local school boards, but it seemed like there were people there from every state, whether or not their state is still a part of NSBA or not. And school board members really, value that networking and just kind of knowing that they're not alone, they're all in this together. And so it would be wonderful if sometime in the near future we could showcase some of the success that's happening in Vermont at a national conference, but that's all I'll say for now. Sandra and Sue may have other things to add that they got out of it.
Do you want to go next, Sandra?
Sure. Thanks. Well, I wanted to first say thank you for the opportunity because it was incredibly powerful and just really a strong connection to folks around the country that are doing this work. And it's just gave me a lot of inspiration. So thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to just tell you a couple of sessions I went to. I'd highlight for you. One was called Ready, Set, Govern, Board Policy and Leadership. Another was Building Capacity to Ensure that Equity Sticks. And a third was Emergency Preparedness for Students with Disabilities, Reducing Liability and Best Practice Solutions. So that's just a sampling, but they had so many wonderful sessions that I really struggled to pick one. I had multiple chosen at every time block. So, and then something that I'm hoping to bring back to Vermont and to my work is I collected a couple of tools around policy work that I would love to adapt and be able to provide to our membership. One was something that outlined questions that boards can ask of themselves as they're developing policy. And another was a tool that could be used to do policy self-assessment. So I will be exploring that a little bit more and hope to share soon.
And I also really appreciated the opportunity to go. I went a day before everyone else because I participated in the COSA conference as well. COSA is the Council of School Attorneys, and that is a 2.5-day conference on education law. So through that conference, I attended 11 hours of continuing legal education, which I need to have in order to renew my license. And the topics that were covered were the rights of transgender students, Title IX, the parents' role in directing the education of their children in K through 12 public schools, legal ethics, managing public comment, federal legal update, which was very interesting, and staff and student free speech in polarizing times. So some very timely topics. The COSA conference does overlap time-wise with the NSBA conference. So that meant I couldn't attend some of the NSBA things, but as soon as I was done with COSA at noon on Saturday, then I just shifted into NSBA attendance and also attended some great workshops there. So, and it was really fun to be with everybody in person again. We haven't done that in a really long time. So it was great to connect with everyone who was there from VSBA, and then also, with people from around the country. So a great experience. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. And the one thing I forgot to mention is I said Viola Garcia was stepping down, and they have a new president, and that's Frank Henderson from Kansas, and also another great person. So I also appreciated the opportunity. I really enjoyed the conference, and hopefully the next time after Orlando, it won't be as far, because I think the first one I went was because it was in Philadelphia and a bunch of us could drive there. So hopefully there'll be one that is closer by so that more people can attend. Let's move into, unless there's questions. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. So kind of apropos of one of the CEs that Sue took, is the NSBA considering moving the conference next year due to the legal changes in laws on transgender, et cetera, down in Florida? It's kind of disappointing to hear that it was going to be down there.
I know we had that informal conversation within our group that just because they have also left the organization, I don't know. We don't know that. I think they plan so far ahead, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think Phil might have some information about that.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality is, Mark, these events are planned multi-years in advance, and it would cost at least $1 million and maybe as much as $2.5 million for them to move the venue at this point. So, given kind of finances, what they are for NSBA and other concerns, I've been doing board development with them, and so I'm privy to those conversations. It's not reasonable that they can back out of Orlando. And lots of folks were sorry about that for reasons that you mentioned.
Well, that's really too bad. Understandable, but really too bad. Thank you.
Kind of stuck. Yeah.
Adrian?
And just to piggyback on that, was there any notion of making a statement that no, we're not canceling because it's expensive and we've already made contracts, but we won't hold it here again? Because
yes, I think those kind of statements, those will come out. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I really hope so, because I don't want our money going to Florida.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. So the last item one of the last items in our agenda is the VSBA Strategic Plan Monitoring Report. Sue?
Yes, I just have a couple of things to highlight on there. One thing that I wanted to make sure you knew about was that the VSBA staff is working on a course entitled Beyond Bias, provided by the Center for Creative Leadership. And we're doing this with staff from the VPA and the VSA, and also some staff from VSBA. It's a scientific and application-based approach that helps leaders not just identify, but overcome current bias habits to provide more equitable, diverse, and inclusive leadership. And, we understand that we need to do our work from within. We've been working on this topic for quite a while, and this is just another step that we're taking to build our ability from within the organization. The other thing I wanted to let you know is, I think Jim already mentioned that the Finance Committee has met twice on the budget, so I won't go into that. The Policy Committee has also met since the last board meeting. They held one policy committee meeting. They did talk about that policy B4, the official public policy positions, and some other policy work that they're doing. They don't have any final work product yet, and we're scheduling another policy committee meeting. There's a doodle poll that I put out, and I'll be sending the policy committee members the date of the next meeting probably tomorrow. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the group, the VSBA subcommittee that has been doing the work on the EQS. That has been a significant amount of work, and I think they've been quite effective in influencing the process in a positive way. And tomorrow, the Act One working group is meeting, I believe, to approve the final draft that will be going to the state board. So thank you very much for those committee members, which are Flor, Colleen, Gaston, and Amy. And that concludes my highlights from the strategic plan monitoring report. Thank you, Flor.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue on what she just briefed you on? Okay, Colleen.
Thank you. Sue, and first I want to say thank you so much for sharing the San Diego slides and the stories. That was, it was inspiring, and I'm glad that you were able to go with a team and not just one individual going, which can be a little bit, you don't get as much out of it. So that's just great. Thank you for sharing that. But I do have a question about the VSBA, the indicator support statewide healthcare bargaining team. And if you could talk with us about the communications piece, working with a communications expert versus the employer commissioners work with their communications expert. That's on page 13.
Yes, at the top of the page. So the employer commissioners are really the ones that are working with the communications expert. I facilitate that by making sure that they're able to have, our Zoom account. I attend the meetings when I can. I haven't been as able to do that recently because of the legislative demands, but I certainly will be doing that, moving forward, especially as the legislature winds down. There's a link to an update to school board members that they published on the website. You can click on that link. Hopefully that works when you click on that link in the strategic plan monitoring tool. They are going to be working with the communications expert over the next couple of years to make sure that school board members and also community members understand the importance of containing the rise of healthcare costs for school employees, and just making sure that they also understand that healthcare expenses are making up a growing and significant part of Vermont school districts' education spending, and what impact that has on what can be provided to students. So does that answer your question, Colleen?
Yes, thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Colleen. I don't see any other hands up, so let's move into our consent agenda and looking to approve the minutes of March 9th. Looking for a motion. Mark?
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I'll second.
Okay, Gaston, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand. Yeah, let me just, yep. I see everybody. Any opposed? Hearing none or seeing none, the minutes pass. Thank you. Any new business?
Flora,
Yeah, done?
I was sad to hear what I think I heard, that Dave Sharp is no
Yeah.
longer on the school board. That's really unfortunate. We'll miss you, Dave.
Thank you. I would very much like to continue, but it's not possible. So I've enjoyed being part of this group. I wish you all the very best. It's so important, the work of the VSBA, both in terms of representing us in the legislature and to the Agency of Education and training local school board members. So thanks for all you do, everyone on this board.
Laura, have one thing I'd like to say. I just learned today from doing board updates. And that is, we all know Clarence Haynes, his daughter is now serving on his school board.
Yay. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great to know. Thank you for sharing that, Carrie. I wanted to, since Martine is back with us, and this is past business, but Martine, do you want to join the resolutions committee as the representative for Western Chittenden, since we have you here?
Let's talk.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll talk.
Yeah, let's talk. And since my mic is live, can I just say something quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this is appropriate to sort of send out a call to action, but I did want folks to know that I spoke today at the State House. Mark Clough, I think you were there. Were you there today? Yeah. Four of us spoke in favor of S287, and the current bill that the House is looking at really kind of eviscerates the S287, and it will alter that bill dramatically. So it could potentially kill the bill. So if this is something you feel strongly about, you may want to reach out to Ways and Means and let them know how important it is to implement the weights as proposed in the 2019 study, which is what we've been saying sort of all along. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. It was a great press conference today.
Thank you, Martine. Don, and then Mark.
I appreciate Martine bringing that up, and I don't know how many people on our board in Burlington, but if you know anybody that votes in Burlington, you might ask them to call the Speaker of the House, who will be up for re-election this year, to ask her to move this bill as it came from the Senate, rather than having what's kind of tooling around with it in Ways and Means. I think the speakers usually in situations where there's controversy will step in. They have a lot of power. And so if I was a Burlingtonian, I might, and thought this was a great bill, the Senate version, I think I would be calling the Speaker of the House and saying, it's very important to us that you move this legislation forward. I think she can read the tea leaves, which might say you are up for re-election, and other leaders who have not listened to constituents are no longer in leadership in the legislature. But I wouldn't tell her that.
Thank you. Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Martine, for speaking today. It really was a very good press conference. I'll sort of echo what Don said and expand on it. Everybody should be calling the Speaker's office, not just if you live in Burlington. The pressure that we can put on her office may or may not break this bill. So please do contact her, not just Ways and Means. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, that really brings us to the end of our meeting. Are there any reflections from our meeting? Or anything else that board members would like to share? We have 4 minutes to end you on time, so hopefully nothing else to share. Okay, well, thank you for allowing me to be chairing your meeting today. Neil will be with us at our next meeting, and we'll see you in a month. And hopefully that next meeting is going to be live, right? Sue,
Right,
we're gonna
so
try.
yes, we're going to be in person. So all we need today is a motion to adjourn. But yes, we'll be in person for the May meeting.
Okay, so after that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Amy, so moved.
Oh, Amy, Adrian, do you want to second it? Yeah. Okay, Amy, and Adrian, all those in favor, please say aye and leave.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, I have it. Good night,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Flora.
Here.
Thank you.